Good morning, all. On behalf of myself and my co-chair, Blanca Lopez, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the joint railroad committee between Metro North and Long Island Railroad, and we begin with any public comments.
Good morning. Before we begin, I'd like to clarify that as a result of questions we've received regarding the time allocation for public speaking, every public speaker will have 2 minutes to speak to the meeting agenda. In the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, each individual registered may provide 2 minutes of comment per public comment session, whether it is at a combined or single meeting. We ask all public speakers to adhere to the time allotment. I will turn it over to Megan. Thank you.
Thank you, Haley. Good morning, everyone. We have 6 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask all public speakers to adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. Please note that there are visual and audible cues to remind speakers when there are 30 seconds remaining to conclude their remarks. Our first speaker will be Murray Bowden, followed by Jason Anthony.
Got this little thing to stand up. Morning, I'm Murray Bowden. What's a red light mean to you? Red light means stop. Flashing red light means, well, stop and then you can go. So all these years at your traffic light, I can't see you, this gentleman's head's in the way. Kathy, all these years, I've been after you about the railroad crossings, and I missed something. You got flashing red lights up there. Flashing lights mean stop, then go. All you have to do is turn off the flasher and put solid red lights at all those crossings. Why didn't we ever think about that? Everybody knows, you see around town, there's a hanging in the middle of a flashing red light. You stop, look both ways, and you go. But if there's a solid red light, you don't go, especially if it says don't turn on red. How'd we all miss that? So the simplest thing you can do is go up there, and you can do it by an engineer legally because you have to document it. And I would get 3 traffic engineers to write it up. And if you need the rules, I've been through it with the law department of the city of New York, how to make an adjustment to the manual, and you can do it. That's the simplest, because we're in Berkshire this weekend, and I get two choices. So, and I realized that. I'm 90 years old, and I didn't get it. All of a sudden, it jumped out at me, all these traffic lights. The other one is where there are dual lights, both the red flashing lights and traffic lights. You can stop it. Safety requires distracted drivers get confused by it, and there's no reason to. That annoys my hearing aids.
Please conclude your remarks.
I got 2 minutes more. Here you all want me to obey the rules and to follow the command. No matter how many times I explain it, the message doesn't go out. By the way,
Mr. Bowden,
there are a number of I'm talking.
Mr. Bowden, we've had I will say one, I didn't wear a tie today just because of you. And I would say we did have a clarification of the rules, and for this committee, although we've become accustomed to having 2 2-minute periods, we will now be limited to 1 2-minute period.
No, I disagree with you.
Well,
until you combine it as you did bus and transit are one committee. It is not officially one committee. You follow the rules, I follow the rules.
Mr. Bowden, respectfully, your time is up.
When you combine, no.
Mr. Bowden, I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
The published rules are this is 2 committees. You have not joined this committee to one yet.
Mr. Bowden, thank you for your remarks.
Good idea.
Our next speaker will be Jason Anthony over Zoom.
Good morning, everyone. On the Monday after my 37th birthday, my comments will be the following. I'm happy that the bathrooms at Penn Station are open. Kathy, please resolve the issue that you guys have with the Port Authority regarding GCM and the air train, because recently when I was traveling to Orlando, the maps at JFK Airport are now updated to reflect the service to GCM. And please have signage at Penn Station to reflect that we could use the Long Island Railroad to Jamaica to service for the air train at JFK Airport, because passengers who often go to JFK Airport are confused to which message to use, either the A or E trains or the Long Island Railroad. So we should get together New York City Transit and the Long Island Railroad to have signage, and this could go to for GCM for the E and the Long Island Railroad there. So that's all I have to say for this month.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker is Christopher Greif, followed by Alita Dupree.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Christopher D. Greif. I hope everyone's doing well. I'd like to remind a couple of things as we celebrate next month, the Disability Pride Month, ADA 33. It is extremely important that we celebrate a lot of things that we accomplish. For starters, getting additional ramps, elevators, signages, larger signages. A lot of that it's been going to be celebrating a lot accomplishment, what we've been doing for all these years for both railroads, as well as getting more safety on our trains. I'd like to thank the MTA police. Chief, I do want to thank you because at Atlantic Avenue, you have been there making sure the homeless and the ones who have been damaging those glass signages along the area of the platforms, even on the subway, we want to thank you very much, and helping a lot of seniors and people with disabilities. So your commitment, thank you, and the transit officers, which I'll talk to them later. But at the same time, I'd like to remind that since this is the railroad, we need to remind that the weekly Atlantic ticket must stay where it is, because for seniors, people with disabilities, and low income need it. It is extremely important because my fellow advocates who do work at Bernard Fine Center or who go to help families with disabilities use that weekly so they can switch from Queens Village or any of the stations that have the Atlantic branch stations. If we extend that to all the way to Penn Station and maybe the Metro North line as well, this will give an opportunity for people to get somewhere a little faster and a little quicker. So let's try to remind that the weekly and maybe a monthly for the city can be optional for seniors and people with disabilities and all customers. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Alita Dupree, followed by Kara Girl.
Thanks again to the chair, Alita Dupree. For the record, she and her. Looking forward to what y'all have to say today. First of all, ADA is very, very important. We want to finish up these stations on commuter rail, so it'll be easier for lots of people. We want full participation. And last meeting, I shared to you about some things I learned about Capitol Corridor, which is a 170-mile commuter rail line in California, in the Bay Area, and about their Tap to Pay program. Well, since that last meeting, I have been to California, and I've actually used it. So maybe that's what Omni is going to look like on the on our commuter rail. Tap on the trains with your card, and works very well. And They have meetings, even though the trains are operated by Amtrak, and the BART is their managing agency. They have a board meeting, and they held it at the BART boardroom last week in Oakland. So that's something that maybe we could bring here to the commuter rails soon, so we can enjoy Omni in that way. And renewable fuel. How can we have renewable fuel in our locomotives? There must be somebody in New York that makes a drop-in renewable diesel fuel, as they're using in Capitol Corridor and Metrolink in California. And I did notice that the renewable fuel does not smell as strong as straight diesel. So there's progress to be made. And lastly, I hope to see you all soon. You can never have enough Grand Central Terminal. I talk about it all the time. It's a place where I discover things bigger than myself. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kara Girl.
Good morning. I'm Kara Girl, Planning and Advocacy Manager at the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. With the Long Island Railroad and Metro North now under one roof, we've long advocated for more integration between the two railroads. Rethinking and expanding fare options can be a major step in the right direction, as we've seen with the new combo ticket. It's great that riders can now transfer between the two at one station, in one ticket, and in one app. Clearly, more riders are starting to take advantage of the option, with 21,000 combo tickets sold so far. We've mentioned before that combo ticket does not always make the most financial sense for riders traveling shorter distances on both railroads. For an off-peak rider within the city going from Fordham to Jamaica, it would currently be more affordable to purchase two separate $5 city tickets instead of the combo ticket's off-peak $7.25 Metro North fare plus $8 for the second leg. Combo ticket should offer a competitive price for riders regardless of their distance traveled on one ticket. Riders should automatically be offered the best price available to them when buying a ticket on train time or on a ticket machine, which would take a lot of the guesswork out of taking transit. Speaking of train time, it's great that 88% of combo ticket sales so far have been through the Train Time app. It goes to show the power of having the ticket available on the app, a luxury that has not been afforded to Atlantic Ticket. We're willing to bet that Atlantic Ticket weekly sales would be exponentially higher if this critical option that includes the option to transfer to subways and buses had been made available on the app. Communicating these fare deals is key to ensuring that riders can take advantage of them. Rolling Atlantic Ticket into City Ticket with its expansion to peak travel makes sense, and we appreciate that our Freedom Ticket vision is closer to reality. But the weekly option that includes transfers to New York City Transit must remain, and hopefully get expanded to all of City Ticket. At a minimum, we hope you will continue to give Southeast Queens and Brooklyn riders the freedom to take any mode they desire with the weekly ticket option. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment session for today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you to all our public speakers this morning. The minutes of the May joint committee meeting have been distributed to all members. Are there any corrections, suggested corrections or omissions? Having heard none, I'd make a motion to move the minutes. Do I have a second? We don't have. We do have. Welcome.
It appears we have one more public speaker.
Oh.
I apologize for that.
Okay.
Okay, I apologize. Thank you. Okay, there is no further public speaking.
If we are not at quorum, and it's our understanding that those joining virtually do not count towards a quorum, I'm actually looking for confirmation if we have a qualified quorum. Okay. We will approve the minutes should we have a quorum before the end of the meeting or next month. Moving on to 2020 work plans. President Rinaldi, are there any changes to the work plans for either railroad?
I do. So the work plans are located on page 45 and 51 of the committee materials. There's a slight change in the work plan for this month and for November, just kind of reclassifying the strategic priorities update to align them with Chairman Lieber's strategic priorities. So you'll see that they're now identified as joint railroad strategic priorities update. And we'll be having that later on in this meeting.
Thank you. Now I'm going to ask President Rinaldi to go right into her president's reports.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been another lively and eventful month on both sides of the Long Island Sound, and ridership remained robust in spite of the major holiday weekend, early vacations, and the air quality issues that the region experienced a couple weeks back. Long Island Railroad ridership kept its strong pace in the month of May, with 20 out of 22 weekday workdays exceeding the 200,000 ridership threshold. More one-day pandemic-era ridership records were set, with the new Long Island Railroad one-day mark set on May 31st, only to be surpassed once again on June 13th, the 14th, and then again the following Tuesday and Wednesday. The current record is now 242,162, which was set on June 21st. On the Metro North side, Metro North also broke its one-day post-COVID ridership record on May 23rd and again on June 20th by more than 10,000 riders, with the current record of 224,371 riders. That same week of May 22nd through May 28th, Metro North also set several additional records: average weekday, average weekend, and the since surpassed average Tuesday through Thursday marks. And 6 out of the 7 days that week all produced individual day ridership records. While May 27th wasn't the best pandemic-era Saturday that we've had, 5,065 people took Metro North to see the Yankees beat the Padres, which was our highest one-day Yankee Stadium tally in the post-COVID era. Impressively, it was about 11% of that day's gate, also a COVID-era record. And this past weekend, both railroads had extremely strong ridership on both days. If you go back 2 weekends to the Friday before Memorial Day, the Long Island Railroad saw significant eastbound ridership, increasing 36.4% above the same day in 2022 and launching the strong summer leisure travel season on Long Island. To help kick off the season, I was joined on May 26 by local officials and the Long Beach Lifeguard Patrol on the beautiful boardwalk in Long Beach to discuss Long Island Railroad's extra summer service, including the popular Cannonball Express to the Hamptons and Montauk, and the discounted packages and escorted tours to many popular Long Island Railroad attractions. Of course, summer travel deals are a great way for Long Island Railroad and Metro North customers to check out the wonderful sights and experiences in each other's service territories, and we've got the new combo ticket, which is the perfect way to do it. So since the opening, one of our public speakers just spoke to this a little bit. Since the opening of GCM, roughly 21,000 combo tickets have been sold as of June 12th, accounting for more than $400,000 in sales, and 88% of which of those sales were via the Train Time app. And we're also extremely encouraged by the 22% increase in combo tickets sold in May over the month of April. So to sum up, ridership-wise, we've had a fantastic spring, and we are thrilled to see so many riders return. However, now that schools are out for the summer and vacation season is starting up, we would expect ridership to level off or potentially drop a little bit. That's the pattern we've seen in past years. But we fully expect that ridership will be back with a vengeance after Labor Day. Both Long Island Railroad and Metro North are celebrating Pride all month long, and you may have noticed some festive additions to our rolling stock. Customers can ride the rail on trains decorated with specially designed Pride decals. Our crews have fixed the decals to some 50 Metro North and 50 Long Island Railroad cars, and these trains have been out and about all month long, spreading the spirit of love, acceptance, and inclusion for all. Posters and digital messaging celebrating LGBTQ+ Pride Month are on display at select Metro North and Long Island Railroad platforms throughout the month, and a 2023 Pride graphic is also lighting up digital display screens at Moynihan Train Hall through a partnership with Amtrak. It's an annual tradition that the Long Island Railroad holds dear, and it's continued uninterrupted since the 1942 founding of the Long Island Veterans Association. On Friday, May 26, the MTA PD Bagpipes and Drums and Ceremonial Unit joined the Armed Forces Color Guard, clergy, and members of the railroad family, past and present, at the Long Island Railroad Hillside Support Facility to raise the colors, say a prayer, and lay a wreath for all of our dearly departed and valiant brothers and sisters. The event honors vets, employees, and Gold Star employees and is well attended by the Long Island Railroad workforce every year. This event is always held on the last Friday before Memorial Day. Even at the height of COVID, when the service was not open to all employees, our veterans made sure that a small service was held on its own and that the Veterans Monument at Hillside was decorated properly. The Long Island Railroad currently and proudly employs approximately 473 veterans from the armed forces. On Saturday, June 10th, 48,000 spectators watched Dark Angelo capture the 155th running of the Belmont Stakes, and the Long Island Railroad once again helped thousands of racing fans make the scene. On a day when the sports world celebrated the 50th anniversary of Secretariat's record-setting run to immortality in 1973, the Long Island Railroad carried some 22,900 fans to and from the event. 10,671 to Belmont Park, and 12,231 fans on westbound trains after the stakes wrapped up, which was about a quarter of the total race attendance. Our Belmont Park station introduced new high-level platforms back in 2015, and this marked the first year that we've offered trains from Grand Central to Belmont Park, allowing fans from the Hudson Valley and Connecticut to connect with trains for Belmont Park under one roof. Congratulations and many, many thanks to all the hardworking men and women involved with the month-long planning and execution of the special Belmont program. Of course, the Belmont is one of a large number of high-attendance events in the tri-state area over the summer. It's just part of the culture here in the nature's biggest market, when Long Island Railroad and Metro-North are among the go-to modes of transportation. And our customer service ambassadors and agents are always up to the task. Oftentimes, we have multiple large events in the same weekend, but rarely do we see weekends like we had June 9th through the 11th, when not only did our employees assist customers and maintain order at the Belmont, they were also at hand at stations to assist crowds attending the Dave Matthews Band concert at Forest Hills on Friday, the 3-day Governor's Ball Music Festival at Flushing Meadows Park, Sunday's Puerto Rican Day Parade, and a 3-game series between the Yankees and the Red Sox up in the Bronx. Between ambassadors, agents, cleaning, and other support personnel, as well as beefed-up staffing at Jamaica and the Belmont-related busing locations, the Long Island Railroad alone added 142 employee shifts on top of normal weekend staffing. I want to again thank our responding employees for their all-hands-on-deck mindset and their dedication and their customer-centric focus. They made our employees feel cared for and well-informed, and they made us all very proud, as they do time and time again. There wasn't much time to rest on our laurels, as the first installment of the Mets-Yankees Subway Series took place at Citi Field on Tuesday and Wednesday, the 13th and the 14th, followed by more Forest Hill concerts the following Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But true to forms, our crews rose to the occasion and shone then too. With all these events, there's a lot of excitement out on the island and up in the Hudson Valley during the summer, but for the railroads, we think of track work all summer long. Traditionally, both railroads have staged significant portions of their yearly track work programs during the summer, when many people take vacations and weather conditions are generally pretty favorable. This summer, the major track work of the Long Island Railroad focuses on the Port Jefferson branch, with an upcoming 6-weekend project spanning July and August to install new running rail, third rail, switches, and 12,000 new concrete ties between Huntington and Port Jeff. And it's important to point out that we are bundling all this work on the Port Jeff, the concrete ties, switch replacement, and various maintenance work projects under the same outages to minimize customer inconvenience and the need for additional outages in the future. There will also be a number of system-wide summer grade crossing renewals, and they kicked off when crews replaced the Hillside Avenue grade crossing adjacent to East Williston Station on 2 consecutive weekends beginning June 10th and 11th. Metro-North introduced new service on June 11th to accommodate its summer construction projects. The work that is most affecting the new timetables is the ongoing project to renew the edges of selected high-level 1980s-era platforms along the Hudson Line. The work has progressed to New Hamburg in an 11-mile single-track block between Beacon and Poughkeepsie, and this phase of the refurbishment work will be completed by September, just in time to restore our popular autumn leaf peeper trains. And on this topic of combining projects to minimize future schedule impacts, Metro-North Structures forces are also taking advantage of this outage to replace bridge timbers on the Wappingers Creek deck bridge just south of New Hamburg. Also on tap this summer, but with minimal scheduling impacts, is switch replacement work at Woodlawn, which is where the New Haven and Harlem lines come together. And over on the New Haven line, we have, among other projects, rail replacement between Mount Vernon East and New Rochelle, significant switch replacement work just east of New Rochelle, the resumption of prep work at the Walk Bridge replacement in Norwalk, Connecticut, and mud spot remediation between Milford and New Haven. So here's me and Justin. On June 13th, at the APTA Rail Conference in Pittsburgh, Justin and I proudly accepted a pair of their prestigious annual Gold Awards, one in the category of rail safety for the first ever 60-mile-per-hour laser train, and the other for emergency management for our dual-level high-water alarm system. Each year, APTA recognizes public transit providers for their innovative and proactive safety programs. Since 2016, Metro-North Railroad has been recognized by APTA 5 times for excellence in safety, which is a testament to all the brain power we have at our disposal. These awards belong to everyone involved in both projects, and I hope they make those employees as proud as they make us. And I would want to call out the Long Island Railroad, which pioneered the laser train a few years back, and the Metro-North work built upon the great work done at the Long Island Railroad in that project. Last month, you heard from Lori about the results of the Long Island Railroad Safety Contest. This month, Shelley Prettyman from Metro-North will discuss the results of the Metro-North Annual Rail Safety Poster Contest, which is part of Metro-North's Track Safety Outreach and Education Program. And you can see the fabulous artistry of the winning entrants right up there on your screens. Another highlight of the safety events calendar at both railroads took place on June 15th in observance of ILCAD, International Level Crossing Awareness Day. With over 40 participating countries, ILCAD is a worldwide initiative to improve grade crossing safety awareness. Each year, both railroads hold ILCAD outreach events at crossings across their territories in collaboration with the PD and other partners, and you'll hear more about these events during the safety presentations at this meeting. This concludes my report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Congratulations on the APTA awards and our laser trains. I just said that because it's really fun to say laser trains. Now I'm going to ask Rob for a report on Long Island Railroad operations.
Good morning. Total on-time performance for the month of May was 94.6%, and year-to-date as of May was 94.8%, both above goal of 94%. 7 of our branches operated at or above goal. For major events, which result in 10 or more late trains, there were 12 incidents for the month of May, the most significant of which occurred on May 16th, a bridge strike near Forest Hill Station, impacting on-time performance by 0.4% and delaying over 100 trains. For our fleet performance, our MDBF for the month of April was 161,755 miles, and year-to-date as of April was 169,817 miles, both just below goal of 170,000 miles. For service delivery, we completed 99.7% of our trips for the month and year-to-date. Upcoming work, which will impact service on July 8th and 9th, there'll be rail replacement and other maintenance activities taking place on the Port Washington branch. Between Great Neck and Port Washington, bus service will replace trains. And as Kathy had mentioned previously, on the Port Jefferson branch, beginning July 15th and 16th, continuing until August 19th and 20th, the track will be out of service between Huntington and Port Washington for concrete ties and other state of good repair work. Again, buses will replace trains. Please check the website and a train time app for updated schedule information. And that concludes my report, and I'll take any questions you may have.
Board Member Olivia?
Thank you, Rob. I just had a question. I saw on the performance metrics, the mean distance between failures it seemed to have really declined. So would just love your perspective on it. And I see it kind of, especially when you compare, the Metro-North MBDF has been going pretty well. So just wanted to check on that.
Well, as you know, recently we implemented a pretty increased service level there. So what happens is with all the extra trains, sometimes it could expand, the mean distance because of all the trains. But with that being said, on the M7 side, which we're a little disappointed with, to be honest, but a big issue with that was a workmanship issue with Kenor on the number 8 vent valve, and that has to do with the braking, regulating the air to the brakes. The instructions as far as greasing a particular valve was incorrect, so it was taking place at the warehouse, where Kenor replaces them and fabricates them, and then also us when we maintain them as well. So we've had an issue with that working with Kenor. We've since rectified it, but that caused an issue there. We've also had a little bit of an issue on the M7 side with the analog controller converter, and that again regulates the braking. It sends messages on how to brake. For the diesel side, we definitely have seen, an impact onto the MDBF, and part of that is the propulsion. What we've seen some coolant leaking issues, and that has to do with where you have a static component where another component that moves. We've seen some leakage in there, so we're trying to address that as well. And on the LVPS, which has to do again with controls through the units, controlling power, we've had an issue on the coach side, which is impacting the diesel as well. So our mechanical group is hard at work looking at it and trying to maximize, I think I'd mentioned it once before, sending out high-tech electricians, specialty groups, trying to identify it and get it under control.
I have a follow-up if I may, but I'll let other folks weigh in first.
Board Member Brown?
Yeah, regarding, and of course I can't find the chart now, but regarding the OTP numbers all along, how do you factor in the shuttle service from Jamaica to Atlantic Ave in terms of OTP? There's no real schedule. My understanding is there's no real schedule between the two, that your trains are leaving every 12 minutes or so was the last thing I heard. But how does that go regarding the OTP? How do you blend in the shuttle numbers with the overall statistics on OTP?
It's calculated the same way, Norman. There actually is a schedule. It's just the frequency in which, during the rush hour, it's actually below that. We got it down in the heart of the rush hour down to about 7.5 minutes. In the off-peak, it's about every 20 minutes. But we can't calculate it as a true shuttle because we still continue to have through trains in there.
Right.
But we do calculate it the same as OTP as far as the rest of the system.
Yeah, well, it's gone from, over the years, from the lowest level of OTP now to the highest level of OTP, and it just seems to me that the shuttle service is, a different type of service than the regular service. It clearly is, and you've eliminated a lot of problems in that sense. That I guess people know their train's on time, though their commute may take 20 minutes longer. Their train's on time. It seems there's two different types of service there.
Well, the beauty of the service to Atlantic Terminal is it's isolated from the rest of the railroad in the sense that, to a large extent, we're not having trains operating from 30, 50 miles out, interfering with the service going to Atlantic Terminal. So it's isolated, it's encapsulated, it's not affected by the other system issues that we may have. So it generates a very reliable service.
Thank you.
Hi, so Rob, this is actually following up Brooklyn Jamaica shuttle. Where are we? How do we define success given a lot of the concerns and outcry, and what do you think is next for the shuttle service?
Well, I think a big success is, as Norman just pointed out, the extreme high on-time performance in there and the reliability of the service and the frequency of the service. You don't have to wait long to actually catch a train. There's always a train there waiting for you with the doors open. So that's a true measure of success right there. And we're always looking at the schedules as we've always done in the past, and we will continue to do, looking for opportunities to make it more beneficial to the customers. So we're in the fall hoping that we can come out with something that maybe would be a little more appealing to our customers, with the caution that we have to remember the Atlantic shuttle was put in place so we could operate more trains throughout the system. But we are looking at ways to fine tune it and make it better.
Any more questions for Rob? Board Member Brown?
My next question is more a comparative thing, so you're going to...
You want me to move? Sure. Now I'm going to ask Justin to deliver, thank you, Rob, deliver his report on Metro North operations.
Sure. Metro North service delivered rate for May was 99.8%. System-wide OTP was 98.5%, above goal of 94%. Year-to-date OTP was also above goal at 97.7%. The mean distance between failures for the fleet was over 500,000 miles In April, an above goal of 175,000 miles. Year-to-date, MDBF was also above goal at 452,000 miles. Regarding service changes, Metro North will run Sunday service on July 4th and will resume regular service on July 5th. And finally, as we enter hurricane season, we have begun our readiness activities. This afternoon, we will be holding a tabletop exercise with all operating departments to review preparedness activities and review lessons learned from previous storms. This concludes the report, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Justin. Board Member Brown?
Yeah, and again, this goes as to comparisons between the two railroads, which I really don't know whether I want to do or not, depending on how the statistics go, but.
Seems like you've made that decision.
Really is. Yeah, and I'll continue to make it. But regarding criminal fare evasion summonses, is one statistic, I mean, the statistics, they go up, they go down, they move all over the place. But one thing is consistent over the years, certainly the years since COVID, has been the much higher rate of criminal fare evasion summonses on Long Island versus Metro North. And to what do you attribute that statistical discontinuity? What is it, that the riders are much better behaved on Metro North, or that our control of them through the conductor police process is better? How come you got twice as many criminal fare evasion summonses on Long Island as Metro North?
Do you want to answer that? Sean, do you want me to take that, or?
Okay. Yep, sorry about that. Most of those on the Long Island Railroad have been attributed to a central focal point, mostly from Penn Station or city-bound towards Jamaica. A lot of fare disputes coming eastbound, coming out of the city, are easily resolved with criminal summonses being issued at Jamaica Station. As far as Metro North, it's a lot more spread out, a lot wider. So in some cases, trying to get to the conductor fast enough to actually handle the fare dispute winds up that the individual winds up departing prior to police arrival, and thus the inability to issue a criminal summons to that person.
Thank you very much. It's a simple explanation that the capturing all the traffic in Jamaica, in this case, allows you to catch more people. And so you're saying a lot of people are escaping on Metro North. Or just people learn that they're going to get caught and stop violating?
No, I won't say that they're escaping. What I'm saying is that in some cases that is the reason for not getting to that particular event, but it also could be that there is potentially a lower percentage of folks actually doing fare evasion on Metro North.
So the one thing I would add to that, Norman, is, I mean, this particular issue was addressed in the recent task force on fare evasion, and both railroads are working, are looking at the recommendations of that report and figuring out the best way to implement them to be able to address this issue of sort of persistent fare evasion and ensuring that there's an appropriate law enforcement response that discourages the behavior, but that also, encourages people to ride the rail. So it's an ongoing effort to identify the best way to be able to address the recommendations that were contained in that very important report.
Board Member Brinkman?
Yes, Chief Montgomery, just to clarify, you said criminal summonses. What would that be, like a misdemeanor, or?
No, criminal summonses are violation summonses. The fines are usually up to $250, but that's predetermined by a judge.
Okay.
Mr. Tessitore?
If I could just chime in, just more of a comment than anything else. I think a lot of what Norman was asking about and what we're clarifying has to do with the response of the MTA police to the increase in assaults on our property, maybe which has been greater than on Metro North Rail property. So as a response to the continued assaults that we're dealing with even to this day, Chief Mueller and his team have put a lot more people out there, and our procedures are a little different, which I think we're going to eventually get to a similar place of how we deal with these fare disputes, and some of the policies that we have in place which don't match up, which there may be more ability for Metro North trains to move quicker in regard to policy than on our property. But if there's any good news about it, I would say the response is welcomed because the assaults are continuing. So without those response to fare evasion issues that elevate to assaults, if there is an interaction, we got problems.
Thank you for that. Any more questions for Justin? Thank you, Justin. With that, I'm going to ask Lori to deliver our Long Island Railroad Safety Report.
Good morning. So our safety report can be found on page 18 of your book, and we're reporting on our performance through the period ending April 2023. So our customer reportable injury rate decreased from 2.84 to 2.08 per million customers. And during the same period, our employee lost time injury rate increased from 4.03 to 4.36 per 200,000 working hours. Three things I'd like to bring to folks' attention for this month. As alluded to by Kathy's presentation, we did have the benefit of working with our partners at MTA Police and the Federal Railroad Administration at 5 of our crossing locations on June 15th. We reached over 1,000 customers during International Level Crossing Awareness Day. We also held our quarterly Employee Safety Focus Day on June 13th, where we emphasized the importance of personal protective equipment and talked about a lot of our FRA mandated programs. And finally, I'd like to invite everybody to join us today. We are going to be at Penn Station with our partners at Amtrak, New York City Transit, and New Jersey Transit for our twice a year we host a Customer Safety Awareness Day. So that will be today from 3 to 6 at Penn Station, and welcome everybody's participation. Happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Any questions for Lori? Thank you, Lori. I'm going to ask Shelley to deliver our Metro North Safety Report.
Okay, good morning. So Metro North Safety Report can be found on page 28 of the committee book. And first, to summarize where Metro North stands with customer and employee injury rates. Again, this compares the rates for the current 12-month reporting period ending April 2023 to the rates for the prior 12 months ending April 2022. So the reportable customer injury rate increased from 2.01 to 2.03 per 1 million customers. For the recent trend, the 12-month rolling rate has continued to drop each month over the past 6 months. The reportable employee lost time injury rate increased from 2.07 to 2.18 per 200,000 working hours. For the recent trend, the 12-month rolling rate dropped this month after holding steady last month. So, as President Rinaldi noted in her remarks, Metro North's annual rail safety poster contest concluded with over 85 entries submitted from students of all ages. Participants were asked to submit a new costume design for our Metroman rail safety mascot, and as you saw earlier in the presentation, a winner was selected from each age group. So design concepts from all winners will be incorporated into the new costume or other outreach materials, and once the costume is developed, the new Metroman will make an appearance at the winner's school. And the contest is part of Metro North's Tracks Together Railroads and Communities Keeping Safe Safety Outreach and Education program. So as Lori mentioned, and also President Rinaldi's, June 15th was International Level Crossing Awareness Day, or ILCAD. So our thanks go out to the MTA Police, Connecticut Department of Transportation, and Federal Railroad Administration, who partnered with Metro North to provide safety information to drivers and pedestrians at 5 crossings, making 663 contacts. So Metro North station ambassadors also performed outreach at 3 stations near crossings, making 850 contacts. So Metro North's participation in ILCAD goes back to 2016, also as part of the TRACS program. So that concludes my report, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Shelley. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. I am going to now make a motion to, now that we have a quorum, to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? Second by Midori. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Now I'm going to ask Kathy to report on the joint. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No offense. I didn't mean to skip you. I'm going to ask Chief Montgomery to deliver the MTA police report.
I'm not offended. Anyhow, for the month of May, We had 26 major felony crimes for the month of May, which is down 1 from last month. 38% or 10 of those larcenies are 10 of those were attributed to larcenies, of which 5 were due to inattentiveness towards property. 3 of them were property that was taken of a value of either $1,000 or above, or a major credit card involved. The other 2 consist of railroad property. The other percentage, 30%, was 8 felony assaults. Of those felony assaults, half of them were on law enforcement officers, or 4. 2 of them against MTA employees, or Long Island Railroad or Metro North employees. It's 1 apiece per railroad, and the other 2 on customers. We had 2 robberies, 2 auto larcenies, and 1 sex offense, which netted an arrest, the sex offense on the 16th, and the individual was apprehended on May 17th. With that said, like I said, incidence was down 1 from last month. That concludes my report, unless there's any other questions.
Board Member Glucksman?
Hi, thank you. Not your fault. You're not responsible for creating the book, but the table that we used to get for years and years on number of, showing the numbers, not a graph like this, especially the one on hate crimes, is absent from here. I don't know, how do we get that added back in? I mean, it's an important thing to track. It's in the transit book, but it's just not in this one.
Okay, we'll look into that, Randy. Thank you.
Board Member Zuckerman?
Thank you, sir. Chief, focus group of 1, which is never a great technique, because you just don't know whether the moment I was there was the right moment, but it was 2 moments, actually. I was at Harlem 125th Street on Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon, and I was struck by the level of vagrancy and intensity outside and, frankly, inside the station. I haven't been at that station in some time, and obviously the economy is not the way it used to be, and there's implications for that. But I must admit, and I'm a man, I'm probably a little more fit than the average guy. I don't feel, and I was in the Army, so I'm generally not fearful for my safety, but I did feel a level of intensity outside of behavior, a lot of screaming, and again, both days in a row, guys sleeping on the side of the building, laying against the side of it, no police presence that I could see. Maybe it was plain clothes for all I know, but I do subscribe to the notion, and not terribly dissimilar to our observations, everyone on this board has seen fare evasion in the subways. When I see stuff like that, I feel obliged, as the cliched phrase says, to say something, so I'm saying something in a public venue. I'm sure you're well aware of it. It's obviously a very important station for us, and I don't know if you've observed, or your men have observed, or people, excuse me, have observed things at Harlem 125th Street, but given its importance to Metro North, I did feel obliged to mention my observations on both days.
Okay. All right. And you have the particular dates in mind that you have?
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday.
This past Saturday.
Yeah, I was there at 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, or sorry, not 1 o'clock, and I was there at 7 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. I was just startled, I must admit. And I've been there other times in the mornings, but it just seemed like worthy of raising it to you to give just take a look and see.
What I'll do is I'll sit and consult with Chief Muller and see exactly what the regional commander, and we'll see about working on whether or not, I mean, I know what you saw, you said you saw. We'll go back and check all of our information, and we'll see exactly what kind of plan we can develop to make sure that if there wasn't anything else going on, to see whether or not we can rectify this problem.
Yeah, don't worry about a plan at this point. I'm just as a focus group of 1, just raising some observations, and if that validates data you're seeing about behavior and things, it'll be worth just adding that to your mix.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a focal point for us, so we definitely don't want that to fall through. So if this is what you're seeing, let us go back and evaluate what we're doing, and then we'll make sure that we come up with the appropriate adjustments.
Yeah, no, it's been a challenging location for many years, as you know. I remember, Board Member Saul used to ask about it on a regular basis. So it is certainly a challenging location. And I also just want to call out the great work that our station ambassadors do at that station. I mean, and our cleaners as well. They go above and beyond with respect to cleaning the street outside the station, even though it's not technically ours. I mean, they really do an amazing job out there, but it does remain a challenging location.
Any other questions for Chief? Oh,
No, I was just going to say that concludes it if there's no other questions.
Any other questions for Chief Montgomery? Thank you, Chief Montgomery.
Thank you.
Now, Kathy, report on the joint railroad strategic priorities.
Thank you. There's a little bit of overlap between this and my remarks earlier, so I'll try to keep it relatively fast pace. As I mentioned, with respect to the work plan amendment at the top of the meeting, both agencies have work plan items for Metro North for Way Ahead, for Long Island Railroad Forward, but it seemed more appropriate for us to kind of amend the biannual reporting slightly to see how both railroads and their performance is aligning with the MTA 2023 strategic priorities as set under the leadership of Chairman LIRR. And we're really happy to give this report today because it reflects a lot of great work that's going on at both railroads. So you see here the 8 strategic priorities that Chairman LIRR and his team have set. We are making, progress on 5 of the priorities that we're going to discuss today. We'll be talking about financial stability and viability in the context of the July financial plan and our progress towards the financial the fiscal baseline reset process, so that will be a report that you'll receive in June. Not going to focus on strengthening and expanding the 21st century bus systems for obvious reasons. The strengthening and expanding of the system will be covered at future meetings on capital program investments, and then the stronger administrative support, which is the final item there, really speaks more to the support that we're getting from the tower. But today we're going to talk about the other 5. Slide 4, we're going to talk about bringing our customers back to mass transit and ridership recovery. Obviously, this has been a huge topic at the monthly committee meeting, so I just want to kind of step back a little bit and talk about some of the higher level statistics that we've been seeing. I mean, it's really been a great year in terms of ridership. As I noted at the top of the meeting, we set one-day post-COVID Long Island Railroad highs last week. On the 20th, it was more than 235,000 riders. The very next day, set a new record with 242,000 riders and change, the highest ridership ever on 2 consecutive days post-COVID. Ridership has increased 21.7% from January of 2023 to May of 2023, so we've gone up from 4.6 million to 5.6 million. On the Metro North side, again, a one-day post-COVID record last week of more than 224,000 riders, and ridership has increased 17.8% from January of this year to May of this year, from 4.5 million to 5.3 million riders. On June 20th, we carried a combined 460,000 customers. So we are thrilled to see the ridership increases that we've seen over the course of the last several months. Just comparing briefly 2022 versus 2023 for Metro North first. As of May in 2022, we carried 4.1 million. In May of 2023, 5.3 million. Year-to-date, 23.4 million. If you look on the Long Island Railroad side, comparing May of 22 to 23, it was 4.5 million in 22. May 2023, 5.6 million. 2023 year-to-date, 24.8 million, give or take. So these are really great statistics. Really, really happy to see how many people are coming back. We're seeing people come back on Mondays. We're seeing people come back on Fridays. We're seeing very strong weekend ridership. So this is a really great area for us. It shows that more and more people are using our system to get around to where they need to go. Delivering better service. We are analyzing the trends and the data that we're seeing post-COVID and trying to adapt to the travel frequency of our riders and whatever this new normal is so that we can meet our riders' travel demands safely and reliably. We are providing better service. Off-peak and leisure discretionary travels, intermediate ridership, reverse commutation, the service is strong and we're seeing the results. On the Metro North side, one customer service adjustment that we're making in alignment with our environmental sustainability goals is to begin allowing bikes on AM reverse peak trains that operate out of Grand Central Terminal. This began last Monday, June 19th. Usual bike restrictions apply in terms of size and number of them on the train. With growing peak period ridership, bikes continue to be restricted on AM peak trains towards GCT and PM peak trains departing GCT, but we're happy to continue to encourage bike ridership where we see the capacity and the ability to do so. As Justin and Rob have both outlined, we're consistently exceeding our targets for OTP. On the Long Island side, 94.9% OTP year-to-date. On the Metro North side, 97.7% OTP year-to-date. This compares to 95.8% for Long Island Railroad for calendar year 2022 and 97.1% for calendar year 2022 on Metro North. As we know, it's been a very historic year for Long Island Railroad with the opening of Grand Central Madison back in February, providing a 41% increase in overall Long Island Railroad service. The two railroads are continuing to work together to deliver excellent customer service to all of our customers. We don't have anything quite as exciting on the Metro North side with respect to a service increase, but I do want to call out the Super Express trains that began in 2022 and that have continued into 2023. These trains stop only at New Haven, Bridgeport, Stamford, and Grand Central. They cut 12 to 20 minutes off of the scheduled running time of the other trains between GCT and New Haven. We talked a little bit about the laser train and the APTA award in the President's report. It's a great example of innovation and how the railroads have shared knowledge. So Long Island Railroad kicked off this initiative a couple of years back. Metro North, I still remember the conversation I had with Justin shortly after he became VP of Ops to have us look into that at Metro North to see what opportunities existed on the Metro North side. Metro North built on the great Long Island work to increase the speeds and the coverage of the laser trains. It's really, revolutionized the way that slippery rail season is being handled at both railroads. So if you look a little bit at the statistics, dig down into that a little bit. On the Long Island side, Long Island saw a 42% reduction in slip-slide events in 2023 versus 2022 because of the laser train. Because of the higher use of the newly received M9 rail cars, the use of the kind of old-school water trains to power wash the pectin from the rails, better monitoring of real-time conditions as slip-slide events occur, better operator training for dealing with low adhesion conditions, and better vegetation management to reduce the source of the problem. On the Long Island side, 2023 versus 2022, Metro North saw a 40% reduction in slip-slide events due to the laser train pilot. Metro North safely cleaned more than 12,000 miles of tracks with the new laser train, which achieved this reduction in events and the lowest wheel-true cost season on record. The next priority is the Chairman's priority of safety and respect. Both railroads are working together to share information and best practices across both safety and security. Both railroads have a right-of-way task force. They're organized a bit differently at the railroads, so I'm just going to give you a high-level description of how it works at both railroads. So on the Metro North side, it's a collaborative daily effort between the Metro North Security Group, the Metro North Safety Group, the PD, and MW structures to actively seek out security and safety-related issues affecting Metro North along the right-of-way. This includes the identification of trespassing hotspots through daily visual inspections, requests to repair and install fencing, additions of signage to deter trespassing, and identifying real estate and encroachment issues. Comparably, on the Long Island side, the Right-of-Way Task Force is a partnership between the Corporate Safety Department and the PD, designed to improve safety and security conditions. Each year, the Right-of-Way Task Force on Long Island performs biannual inspections of all 12 Long Island Railroad branches as required by the high security fencing policy. The Right-of-Way Task Force also responds to complaints including but not limited to breaches in the fencing, homeless encampments, illegal dumping of debris, and trespassing conditions that may be reported by employees and the public. The Right-of-Way Task Force program has continued to prioritize Long Island Railroad properties for high-security fencing installations. They use an algorithm which accounts for accidental and undetermined fatalities, suicides, debris strikes, trespasser reports, and cut fences. The railroads continue to share best practices and challenges to assist each other in addressing common hazards. Solutions are then implemented taking into account our unique physical characteristics and operating environments. The task force members for both railroads survey rights-of-way to identify fencing that needs repair, review inspection processes and procedures, analyze existing community educational efforts, ensure that railroad employees secure all access points along sensitive areas, and work with local elected officials to identify new resources that may be available to repair and erect new fencing. Both railroads, and you've heard from Lori and from Shelley, have their TRACS programs, their safety education and community outreach programs that provide free rail safety education to individuals and groups through our respective territories. And as we've already discussed today, both railroads participate in ILCAD and other rail safety events, including the National Rail Safety Grade Crossing Week, Suicide Prevention Day, Customer Safety Day events, fire and train shows, town events and festivals, with the assistance and partnership of our partners at the MTA Police, the MTA Police Explorers, local DOT and FRA personnel, and public affairs groups led by Will Schwartz. Train Patrol is a partnership with the PD. Working with Chief Mueller, we have significantly increased police patrols on board our trains at both Railroad and Metro, Long Island Railroad and Metro North. Customer injuries have decreased across both railroads. The Office of System Safety continues to work with the operating departments to address incident and injury trends, complete in-depth investigations, and perform yard cleanups. The most recent cleanup on the Metro North side was held in Grand Central on June 10th to promote a safer work environment. Okay, I'm going to skip over this because we've gone over this already. Let's go to the next slide, which is the increased appeal for our customers. We've talked a bit about the combo ticket. We are increasing the appeal for our Metro North and Long Island Railroad originating customers through our new combo tickets. We've talked about the sales up to this point. And again, want to reiterate that we're thrilled to see that approximately 89% of the combo ticket sales are on the Train Time app, which again reinforces the attractiveness of this app for our customers and the ability that it provides for cross-agency travel, which is a really wonderful trend to see. Train to the Game services on both railroads, and now with the opening of GCM, it is easier than ever for fans of both major sports teams to arrive by rail. A good example is of the increased ability for people to take the rails is the ridership that we've seen at Elmont UBS events. More and more event goers are discovering the Long Island Railroad service to Elmont UBS. Ridership to UBS Arena increased significantly when westbound service for the events was introduced at UBS Elmont Station, which later became a full-time station with the opening of GCM. 22% of the gate attendance for the Blink 182 event at UBS Arena was transported by the Long Island Railroad. 25% of all Belmont attendees were transported by the Long Island Railroad. And we're thrilled to be continuing to offer great getaway packages through MTA Way. Let's talk a little bit about revived talent and culture, because our people are a priority at both railroads, and continuing to be able to attract more people to work on the railroads is an incredibly important priority for both railroads. In partnership with the People Tower, our number one goal is to ensure revived talent and culture, to attract, hire, promote, retain, to ensure all of our critical positions are filled at both of our railroads. For Long Island Railroad, as of June 1st, a total of 267 employees have been onboarded this year. On the Metro North side, as of June 1st, a total of 188 hires have been onboarded, and we continue to promote diversity in all of our hiring efforts. We had a great year for this in 2022. 53% of new hires at Long Island Railroad were minorities last year. 54% of new hires at Metro North were minorities. We're continuing to see this positive trend in 2023. Through March 31st of this year, 64% of new hires at Long Island Railroad were minorities and 55% of new hires at Metro North. We're continuing to focus on hiring more women. We're still working on the data. We still have a long way to go just because of the nature of the work that we do here and the fact that post-consolidation, the work that remains at the railroads is largely, the craft and operational works. Our hiring and retention efforts are enabled through the following initiatives. We have day in the life videos. We have the posters that you've seen here that appear throughout our network. We have open houses to attract more employees. The most recent was the Metro North open house that took place last Saturday, June 17th at Croton Harmon. We've connected with schools throughout the region, blue-collar trade schools, associate trade programs. We have an internship partnership with CUNY, with the newest MTA-Y cohort beginning on July 10th. We have an engineer trainee program. The newest Metro North 28-person cohort began on June 21st. Half of the new cohort are minorities and 5 of them are women. And there are other incentives across both railroads, a paid incentive training for locomotive engineers and hiring outreach sent via seat drops and the use of electronic boards on our rolling stock. As we discussed, the financial stability and viability will be discussed more at the July board meeting in connection with the update on the July financial plan. So we'll defer that until the July meeting. Finally, the slide about the operating the railroad of today and planning for the railroad of tomorrow. As the president of Metro North and the interim president of Long Island, we are all committed to the ridership recovery, the economic vitality of the region, continuing to provide safe and reliable transportation services. The leadership team and indeed the entire workforce of both railroads are committed to the following enablers in order to continue our success and progress. We want to develop and cultivate the next generation workforce and understand better the requirements of attracting and retaining the next generation of employees for both railroads. We want to continue the process and the progress that we've made in terms of innovating and sharing best practices between the railroads. This is done largely through international and national benchmarking, as well as learning from each other and continuing to advance and grow. We want to continue to leverage inquiry and questioning, use better data analytics to be able to improve our performance, leading to better informed decision-making for the success of our railroads and providing better service across the region. This concludes this update, and I'm happy to be able to answer any questions that y'all might have. Thank you.
Board Member Glucksman?
Thank you. Interesting report. I like the Super Expresses on Metro on New Haven, but I heard a report this morning on CBS 880 that they're looking again. They still have that on the table to cut the service on the New Haven line. So I'm concerned about it.
Yeah, so just as an update, because we talked quite a bit about that last month, so just to continue to bring you up to speed, those conversations with the state of Connecticut continue. They did pass their budget back in at the end of their legislative session, which was the beginning of June. Staff level conversations, as well as conversations between me and the Commissioner of Transportation, continue. As I've indicated to this group before, we are focused. And Governor Hochul has been very clear that New York riders, should not be caught up in all of this, which accounts for some of the back and forth that we're having with transportation to ensure that New York riders are continue to enjoy the same level of service that they're currently providing. But we're providing data to CDOT. We've had very productive conversations, but we have not yet landed on a schedule.
My co-chair Lopez has a question, a comment.
Hi, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I just have a couple of comments. One question, which President Rinaldi just answered with respect to the budget and the state of Connecticut's budget and its impact in the New Haven line. But my other two questions have to do with the report that the chair just presented, which was very informative. Thank you very much. With respect to the increased appeal, I don't know if there is some sort of plan or something that you could share at some point. There seems to be, in many different stations, pockets of trash that keeps accumulating, whether it's across the tracks, whether it's in areas that is really hard for maintenance staff to get to. And I was wondering if there was some sort of response to that, because, for example, in Portchester, when I go down the steps from the platform, there are always areas that are very hard to reach, but very easy to kind of dump trash in. So I'm wondering if there is a response to that. The other comment or question with respect to the internship program, I wasn't sure if there has ever been any conversation with perhaps Westchester Community College or Nassau and or Suffolk Community Colleges to do some sort of internship program with the MTA. Thank you.
Sure. So answering your first question first with respect to right-of-way cleanups, there's a number of ways that we become aware of those kinds of conditions. So, we'll hear about them through the work of the right-of-way task forces, which we've talked about a little bit. And, we also hear about them from community groups. We have partnered with community groups. We've done really intensive cleanups along the right-of-way in certain areas. I think we reported on one that we had done in the Bronx on the Metro North side not that long ago. So we do, we'll partner intensely with community groups on certain problem areas. We'll do cleanups in connection with, work that's done along the right-of-way as part of our, our various track initiatives. So we'll sort of dig in while we're there to be able to address trash. So it tends to be sort of a mixture of ways of actually getting at the problem, but, we continue to want to hear about conditions that people see along the right-of-way so that we can target our limited resources in the appropriate spots. But we do the best we can with the resources that we have, recognizing that it is part of the appeal of our services and unsightly accumulations of trash along the right-of-way, definitely are issues that concern the community and concern our ridership. Sometimes we have issues with, hypodermic needles where we need to actually call in outside contractors to be able to address medical waste, which can, make it a little bit more of a time-consuming process. But we do have a sort of faceted approach towards dealing with, trash that accumulates along the right-of-way. With respect to your second question about community colleges, obviously the recruiting efforts are now led by the People Tower, which is, under Lizette and Hugo's leadership. But we have a fairly broad base of colleges and trade schools that we deal with. The most recent example of that is the real, concerted recruiting effort that we did for the Metro North hiring fair that was just last week. We did a very, very broad outreach to a number of different trade schools and community colleges across the area to ensure good participation at this event, and we were very happy with the participation that we saw. We continue to build upon existing internships and relationships that we have with those schools to be able to better diversify the people who are applying for jobs here and just to have more interest for the many jobs that both agencies are posting.
Thank you.
Board Member Brigham?
Yes, I know it's early in the game, but how is Elmont Station doing as a commuter station? I mean, we all hear about the service for
Yeah.
UPS Arena, but is it getting much use as a commuter station? And is there parking there? I don't even know if there's parking there for.
There's a lot of parking there. I don't know the answer to that question, Rob, do you?
I don't have numbers. There is commuter parking. It's, through the local community, but I don't have numbers as far as usage. And it's not heavily used, but it is used.
Yeah.
I just don't have specific
Yeah,
numbers.
Well, again, it's early in the game,
Yeah.
and maybe it's something we might need to promote.
Yeah, we can see what we have and get back to you next month.
Okay, and then I just wanted to follow up on what Blanca had mentioned about the training in community colleges. Out in Suffolk, offshore wind needs people, and
Yeah.
they've actually partnered with Suffolk Community College to develop programs. They've partnered with the Department of Labor for scholarships for people to take these courses. So if there's something that might be appropriate for the Long Island Railroad for some of your workers, maybe you can work something out there.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. I mean, when I was at APT 2 weeks ago, I guess, there was a presentation along those lines where, actually putting together programs with schools to get people interested in railroad work and what do those partnerships look like and how can we profit from those? Because, yeah, I mean, I think, we need to establish a talent pipeline and get people very young interested in working at a railroad because that's really, it's key to our future and key to our ability to be able to continue to provide service to our customers.
Right, it's great to hear that. Thanks, Kathy.
And to your, Board Member Brown?
Yeah, I'd like to note that my grandson wants to work on a railroad, so. I have a question regarding the, what I believe Sam brought up before, the wonderful sound of the laser train, that we like the sound of the laser train, and we like it a lot better than it's a much better marketing language than what it replaced, which we used to call the slime train, because they used to put slime on the tracks to get the same sort of level of cohesion. But as with the previous situation with the slime train, much of that slip slide, as you guys well know, is a function of sort of the weather roulette. And since this winter, we had no winter, and it's also a function of when precisely the leaves fall. How do you distinguish, or have you distinguished, do the statistics there represent a success? How much of it represents a success of the laser train replacing the slime train, and how much of it was just the crapshoot of the weather? Do you have a, I mean, do you try to separate out those sort of?
Yeah, I think not really. I mean, I think that, you know, regardless of whether it's early November or early December, the leaves kind of fall over the course of, you know, a number of weeks, you know, during the fall. Yeah, I mean, if you have a, you know, a super heavy rainstorm or lots of leaves fall, you'll have a, you know, a bad couple days. But no, I don't think we have data that sort of isolates, you know, this is because the power washer was better this year. This was because, you know, we didn't have as many heavy storms. I don't think we have that kind of granular data with respect to the contribution of the various factors towards the reduction of the low adhesion events. The one thing that I would say, though, Norman, is that, you know, this was the first year Metro North used it, right? And we did see a significant decrease, and we saw, you know, the best wheel true season that we've ever had. So, you know, we really do attribute it to the fact that we were able to get the laser train out over the entire territory every single day. You know, the power washer was great. We, you know, affectionately call it Water World, but you know, the power washer, you know, you can't run it when it gets too cold, and it has its limitations in terms of ground that you can cover. So, you know, we're really thrilled with the increased coverage with the new technology.
Can it ever get to the point where you hook up a laser on every train and just becomes part of the system like brakes?
I'm looking at Justin, he's like nodding no. I mean, I think not.
No, right now, the way it's set up, it's a whole special car, right? So we'd have to have a car for every train, so it's...
I know the way it's set up, but what direction are you moving?
So as of right now, no, the idea is just to keep the laser train as is.
Yeah, I mean, just my sense is that would be really prohibitively expensive to be able to outfit every train with a laser, and you know, you've got hundreds of pieces of rolling stock. So, but Rob wants to say something too.
No, and I think, you know, the laser train is a huge addition, but I think that makes up part of the overall strategy, right? You also have vegetation management, which plays a huge, tremendous role in what we do. So that helps as well. And, you know, every season is different, but I think a good marker for that is, you know, the customer experience, how many short trains we have through the course of a leaf season. So I think those are, you know, identifiers that help us, you know. But as you said, every year is different, but there are specific components that we can gauge, and that it's definitely made a tremendous effort, you know, in addition to our arsenal.
Well, it shows you how many layers of data there are on these things, because there's, you know, there's many, you also added more wheel truers, I believe, on both properties in the same window of data. So that, you know, you've got more available cars, partly because you got more wheel truers too. So you're truing more wheels. And the statistic, you know, there's 3 or 4 moving parts in this one simple little statistic, and the weather being still a significant one.
Any more on this? You good? Moving on, I had a couple comments. One, I think we can't celebrate enough that we continue to break records of ridership on the railroads. That's terrific. I myself have been also anecdotally regularly commuting into Grand Central, Madison as a point, and I could tell even from the beginning to now, you know, I took a 7:54 train at Lindenhurst, probably one train later, which cost everyone associated with this meeting about 5 minutes. But it's that train, which was pretty sparse when I first began to take it, was pretty well attended. I do have a question on the reverse, using bicycles, allowing bicycles on the reverse commute out of Grand Central. I'm wondering if there's anything that's being mindfully done. I know we have there's still a lot of white finders, a lot of personnel in the station, but to prevent, you know, bicyclists from trying to use the escalators, because on any escalator it would be dangerous, but particularly on those steep escalators, I can imagine it being something we should be particularly mindful for safety.
Why don't I actually defer answering that question, because I know that Chairman Lieber had stopped by just to make some remarks. Thank you.
Sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just needed, I have to run away to an event with the governor, but I just didn't want to have much more time in an MTA board day pass without acknowledging the passing of former Chairman Richard Ravitch, who, as I say, has passed away today, apparently. Dick Ravitch, for everybody in the transportation business, was a giant. He was the chairman of the MTA at the moment, maybe the lowest moment in the history of at least the subway system, and certainly the mass transit system in New York. And in the late 70s and early 80s, he led the beginnings of the turnaround of our great mass transit system. Many of us had a chance I knew him from those days, coincidentally. When I was still a kid in high school, he was one of the reasons that I got excited about transit. It was the area that was, most representative of New York's incredible revival, starting in the late 1970s. And in many ways, he is one of the fathers of the mass transit system that we have today, and which we celebrate in so many different ways, and try to continue to improve in his spirit. So I just needed to say to all of us who are passionate about this issue, and some of us who knew Dick, he was just a huge impact to everything that this group works on. And and part of his legacy is that he stepped up to the plate yet again in this last episode for helping the MTA under the governor's leadership to get its budget deficit addressed. Dick wrote a couple of op-eds which had impact in Albany, one in the Times-Union, one in the New York papers, and he was right there with us talking to me and to Kevin Willens about how we needed to make sure the MTA's budget was balanced, because he was passionate about maintaining service for the public. So, we all say together, God rest his soul, and thank you for what you did for New York and for the MTA.
Thank you for that dedication, Chairman. It's worth noting that I've met so many people associated with prior service to this agency that continue to have that commitment. It seems like once you touch this, and Mr. Ravitch is a good example that you continue to maintain a passion, and it's definitely a sad day to lose such a committed public servant.
So bicycles on escalators. So with respect to GCM specifically, because that's where you've got the big escalators, there's actually been an ongoing partnership with safety and the Long Island Railroad to just sort of figure out the signage and the announcements. There's a big issue with luggage. That's another big issue out there. The extent to which people should be directed to elevators and elevators as opposed to taking the escalators. So there's signage in place now. There's announcements that are in place now. We're continuing to refine that just based upon the kind of traffic that we're seeing.
Great. Because I know, and Co-Chair Lopez and I have talked about in the past, we have quite a bit of enthusiasm about other first mile solutions. I know those pilots are happening. Love a update on the progress of that at some point. But even if there is, if there's many different reasons someone would have a bicycle on Grand Street, they could be using the bicycle after they get off the train or to get to the train. So even having storage points, coordination with, as we'll see how these last mile components go, better coordination with perhaps using bike share services both on the city side and on the side of the counties would be great.
Yeah, there's a lot of good work going on that topic, so we'd be happy to update you at a future meeting. Sure. The one thing that I would say, since I have the mic for a second, and we're talking about people who contributed to the MTA and the MTA family, is I also want to acknowledge the passing of Michael Hradnicanu last week, who, for those of us who worked with Michael closely, obviously a tremendous loss to the MTA family, and was a real partner with respect to the delivery of the East Side Access Project. I mean, so many of the advancements were made under his leadership, and was a friend to many of us, and a tremendous loss to the MTA family. So I want to acknowledge his passing as well.
Thank you, Kathy. Kathy, are there any more information items to report?
We're just going to zip through the rest of this. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jerry, please.
While you were talking about Grand Central Mass, I was there one day last week in Biltmore Room. One of the escalators was out. The up one was working, the down one was being serviced. So some kind of a signage or people out there to direct customers in case it is out, how they can get upstairs, downstairs to Grand Central Mass.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly, our station personnel will work with the GCMCOC. We'll figure that out, Randy, yeah. Go ahead, Jerry, please.
Yes, just a ballpark idea. What's the difference between Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday versus the Monday, Friday ridership? And the reason I ask this is, rumor has it that the 20-trip ticket might be on the chopping block to push people more towards monthlies. So I just wanted to get a feel for, how many people are still hybrid working, how many people are still coming back, at least as we see it on ticket sales.
Yeah, I mean, I can get you a little bit more granular information next month, but the one thing that I would say on the Long Island side is consistently now, for the past several weeks, we're breaking 200,000 every single day, Mondays as well as Fridays. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are definitely the highest, Tuesday
Yep.
and Wednesday being the highest of the three. But regularly on Mondays and Fridays, we're also seeing more than 200,000 riders. So that was not the case 5-6 weeks ago.
Okay.
But that's consistently been the case for the past, maybe month or so around? Yeah, it's about a month now.
Okay.
So which is good, and even on the Metro North side, Friday is not as heavy, but Mondays are coming back.
Okay, great.
So we're starting to see, instead of being like a 3-day-a-week railroad, on the Long Island side, we're kind of a 5-day-a-week railroad, and Metro North, 4-day-a-week railroad. So these are all really good positive trends that we're happy to see.
Okay, great. That's what I wanted to know. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Terrific. Now I'm going to ask you to just
I'm
run through your,
I'm gonna zip through as fast as I can. So
we're at
agency.
breakfast meeting and we're headed into lunch. So.
I'm all good. So, all right, so agency information items. So there's 2 Long Island information items, the summer track work program and the diversity EEO report. The diversity report will be discussed in more detail at the diversity committee meeting. And then on the Metro North side, there's only 1 information item. Again, the diversity EEO report, which will be discussed at the diversity committee meeting. The finance reports for both agencies are in the book. As always, if you have any questions, we are happy to answer them. And there is 1 Metro North procurement, which will be explained by my friend, Mr. Masato, down there at the end of the room.
Hello, can you hear me? Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Metro North, on behalf of the Connecticut Department of Transportation, CDOT, is seeking MTA board approval to exercise an option under a contract that resulted from a competitive RFP in the amount of $78.8 million to Siemens Mobility for the design, manufacture, testing, and delivery of 6 dual-mode diesel-electric locomotives. The base contract was awarded by the board in December 2020 and included options for additional locomotives for Metro North Long Island Railroad, New York State DOT, and CDOT. The price for the option locomotives established at the time of the award is subject to a price adjustment based on a formula that incorporates a number of price indices. The 6 locomotives under this option will replace the CDOT-owned locomotives that are beyond their 25-year useful service life. Based on the current contract schedule and continuous production, the delivery of these 6 locomotives is scheduled to begin in the second quarter of 2027 and be completed by the fall of 2027. This option is fully funded by Connecticut Department of Transportation. Are there any questions?
Nope. Having none?
May I please have a vote for this procurement?
I'll make a motion to move this. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second? So moved.